Have you ever walked away from an argument feeling smaller, even when you spoke your truth? You replay the words. You try to find the moment where you lost control, or worse, where no one truly heard you. You spoke, you defended, you explained, and still it felt hollow. Why? Because deep down, you felt the illusion. The illusion that speaking up is always strength, and that silence is surrender. But Friedrich Nietzsche knew something different. He knew that the most powerful man in the room is often the one who says nothing at all, not because he has no words, but because he doesn't need them. His presence is enough. His restraint, terrifying. His silence, not weakness, but a statement louder than any rebuttal. This video is about that silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of dominance, of self-mastery, of psychological control so refined it requires no performance. Because silence, when it's chosen, doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've already won. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the one who speaks least often sees the most. We speak because we want to be seen. We argue because we want to be right. We explain because we fear being misunderstood. But beneath all that noise is something far more vulnerable, a fragile need to justify our existence in the eyes of others. And that's where we lose. Nietzsche called this the morality of the herd, the silent pressure to conform, to explain, to be agreeable enough to remain accepted. In that world, silence is feared, because silence cannot be controlled, categorized, or appeased. The moment you stop defending yourself, you step outside of the herd. And the herd doesn't forgive that. We've been conditioned to believe that silence means guilt, that those who don't respond have something to hide, that those who don't fight back are admitting defeat. But that conditioning, it's projection, not truth. It's the mind of the insecure demanding proof of worth where no proof is owed. Nietzsche understood that not every battle deserves your energy, that in a world built on ego and appearances, saying less is often the boldest move you can make. Because the truly powerful don't need to be understood. They don't chase recognition. They live in alignment, and that alignment speaks louder than words ever could. So the next time you feel the urge to respond, to explain, to defend, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this to be clear or just to be accepted? Am I protecting my truth or performing for approval? Because sometimes the most radical act of strength is saying nothing at all. To Nietzsche, the highest form of power was not loud. It didn't argue. It didn't explain. It didn't beg to be understood. It simply was. He called this figure the Übermensch, the one who transcends the need for validation. Not because he doesn't feel, but because he no longer allows the world to dictate his value. He lives beyond approval, beyond conformity, beyond reaction. He is untouchable, not because he hides, but because he no longer bleeds for those who never learned to see. This is where silence becomes more than absence. It becomes presence, an unsettling, undeniable presence that disrupts the emotional rhythm of everyone around you. While others shout, plead, and posture, the Übermensch simply watches, unmoved, unshaken, unavailable for games that feed on chaos and insecurity. There's power in choosing not to react, in letting noise echo unanswered, in standing still while the world scrambles to provoke a response you've already outgrown. Because the one who does not explain cannot be reduced. The one who does not react cannot be controlled. And the one who is comfortable in silence has already won a battle most people don't even know they're fighting. This isn't about arrogance. It's about sovereignty. a state of being where your peace is no longer up for negotiation, and your energy is no longer spent proving your worth to people who only listen to respond. To Nietzsche, the highest form of power was not loud. It didn't argue. It didn't explain. It didn't beg to be understood. It simply was. He called this figure the Übermensch, the one who transcends the need for validation. Not because he doesn't feel, but because he no longer allows the world to dictate his value. He lives beyond approval, beyond conformity, beyond reaction. He is untouchable, not because he hides, but because he no longer bleeds for those who never learned to see. This is where silence becomes more than absence. It becomes presence, an unsettling, undeniable presence that disrupts the emotional rhythm of everyone around you. While others shout, plead, and posture, the Übermensch simply watches, unmoved, unshaken, unavailable for games that feed on chaos and insecurity. There's power in choosing not to react, in letting noise echo unanswered, in standing still while the world scrambles to provoke a response you've already outgrown. Because the one who does not explain cannot be reduced. The one who does not react cannot be controlled. And the one who is comfortable in silence has already won a battle most people don't even know they're fighting. This isn't about arrogance. It's about sovereignty, a state of being where your peace is no longer up for negotiation, and your energy is no longer spent proving your worth to people who only listen to respond. Silence isn't just the absence of words. It's a psychological force, a mirror, a disruption. When you say nothing, people are forced to sit with their own minds, and most can't handle that. Because silence doesn't just pause the conversation, it shifts the power dynamic. The human brain craves closure. It wants feedback, a reaction, a sense of control. When that's removed, the insecure mind scrambles to fill the void. It overthinks, projects, panics, and in that moment, your silence becomes their discomfort. Nietzsche knew that the one who can remain still while others spiral is the one who holds the true upper hand. Not by force, but by gravity. Your restraint draws everything toward you. The silent person becomes the center of the room, not because they demand attention, but because they reveal what others hide behind their noise. In arguments, silence is interpreted as strength. In manipulation, it disrupts the pattern. In confusion, it becomes clarity. Because those who rely on chaos, on pushing your buttons, on provoking a reaction, lose all leverage when you no longer flinch. The psychology of silence is simple. When you don't feed the fire, it dies. When you don't respond, you become a wall, and everything thrown at you just bounces off. People begin to reveal themselves, their projections, their insecurities, their games, all while you stay rooted. And that's the paradox. The less you say, the more you're heard. The more you withdraw, the more they notice. Because silence, when intentional, doesn't erase your presence, it amplifies it. Silence becomes truly powerful when it stops being passive and starts being strategic. This isn't about avoidance. It's about influence. About choosing when and where to place your energy like moves on a board. Because silence, when used deliberately, becomes the ultimate psychological weapon. Nietzsche didn't advocate for retreat. He advocated for mastery. And the one who masters their silence masters the room. Here's how. First, repression of impulse. You feel the urge to defend, to explain, to correct. But you don't. You let the discomfort rise and dissolve. Because that pause is power. Second, hunter's observation. While others waste energy revealing themselves, you stay still. You watch patterns. You listen for weakness. You gather leverage, not through dominance, but through awareness. Third, tension as a tool. People are addicted to immediacy. When you respond instantly, they control the pace. But when you pause, when you let silence linger, you regain command. You force them to feel the weight of their own words. And finally, unpredictability. Silence makes you unreadable. It breaks the rhythm of emotional games. People can't manipulate what they can't predict, and they can't predict what never reacts the same way twice. This is not cruelty. It's control, not over others, but over yourself. Silence becomes influence when it's paired with presence, when it's not just the absence of noise, but the echo of purpose. In a world addicted to reaction, stillness becomes mystery, and mystery becomes power. But not all silence is powerful. Not all stillness is strength. There's another kind, quieter, darker. The silence of suppression. The silence of someone who's learned to shrink themselves just to be safe. Passive silence is what happens when you've been ignored, invalidated, or punished for speaking your truth. It's when your voice goes quiet not by choice, but by conditioning. When your stillness isn't power, it's protection. And Nietzsche warned us about this too. He spoke of herd morality, the way society rewards obedience and punishes rebellion. In that world, silence is not respected. It's expected. You're told to be small, to not disrupt, to keep the peace, even if it costs you your soul. But peace without truth is not peace. It's submission. And that kind of silence slowly erodes your sense of self. You begin to disappear while still being present. You become agreeable, contained, empty. There's a difference between choosing silence and being silenced. One is strength, the other is survival. So ask yourself, is your silence a sword or a cage? Is it a boundary or a bruise? Because Nietzsche didn't admire quiet compliance. He admired the one who could speak, but doesn't need to. The one who could react, but chooses not to. The one who, even in silence, remains whole. Silence only becomes power when it's a choice. When it's no longer born from fear, but from clarity. That's what Nietzsche meant by self-overcoming. Not dominance over others, but dominion over the self. Reclaiming silence starts when you realize you owe no one a reaction. Not to prove your intelligence, not to defend your integrity, not to soothe their projections. You stop playing roles. You stop feeding egos. You stop making yourself small to make others comfortable. You begin to speak only when your words are anchored in truth. And when they're not, you wait. You hold. You observe. You let your silence ask the real question. Why do they need me to respond so badly? Because when you choose silence consciously, you transform it from avoidance into awareness. It becomes an edge, a boundary that says, I'm no longer available for performance. And slowly, people start to feel it. The shift, the absence of your old self, the one who explained, apologized, overgave. In its place stands something unfamiliar. Someone clear, someone calm, someone untouchable. That's the power of self-mastery. And it begins the moment you realize your energy is not public property. Your presence is not a gift everyone gets to keep. And your silence? It is sacred. The silent warrior doesn't shout. He doesn't defend. He doesn't perform. He simply knows, and that knowing is enough. Nietzsche didn't preach stillness for the sake of silence. He preached it as the mark of the Übermensch, the one who no longer reacts from fear, but acts from depth. a being who moves through the world not seeking power, but radiating it. In silence, there is space. In space, there is vision. And in vision, there is truth, the kind you don't have to explain because it lives in every step you take. Let them question you. Let them fill the silence with their own fears, because in that space, they will reveal more than you ever need to. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to become whole. And sometimes that becoming requires your absence. So now, the question isn't whether you can speak. It's whether you must. True power doesn't perform. It simply exists. And when you stop making yourself available to everything, everything begins to move differently around you. If this message spoke to something quiet inside you, let it live. Comment below. I choose the silence that commands respect. Subscribe for more philosophy, more power, more presence. And if you're ready for the next step, the next evolution of self, watch the next video. Your silence isn't weakness. It's the space where the strongest version of you is finally allowed to breathe.